Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first recap for the first session of my Blood, Bone, and Shadow game, which I run on Monday nights. This is a game that I run using Blood and Bone as our engine. It's a modified form, a house-ruled version of Blood and Bone, utilizing the Shadows of Esteren setting. I've taken a lot of the information from the actual Blood and Bone setting, but modified it to our tastes. I did a whole video on setting and system, so I'm not gonna repeat that. You can refer to that other video for information of that. But what I hope to do with these recaps is to keep a record of our sessions for myself and my players. Some sort of game artifact. Something to remind us of what happened when we played this game, and at the same time to use it as a record, a way to remind ourselves of what is going on and prepare for the next upcoming session. So we usually play for 2 hours at a time, so sessions are short. I'll start doing the recaps. The first couple of sessions, nothing much happened in the terms of action, but it was more of the process of settling into the setting and the characters and setting the stage and preparing for to get the game rolling, right? So we had already done session 0. By this time, characters were all set, and so we got together to start our game. So I want to read. First of all, Blood and Bone runs on beliefs, much like Burning Wheel, so I figured I'd go through the beliefs and a short description of the characters to start. So let's see, I had a summary document done with the 3 main characters. It's 3 players. Jose is playing Cormac Gottfriedson, the Wolfhound. Cormac is a young man caught between 2 worlds, between the castle folk and the village folk. As I explained in the previous video about the setting, it's the Norman-like invaders with their plate armor and their one god coming into, those are called the Alarans, and they came in to invade the world of the Caelicians, who are Celtic people with many gods and worshippers of nature. So Cormac is the son of a Blade Knight, but his mother is of the Caelician people, so he straddles the 2 worlds. So his world belief is, as the winters grow colder and the wolves howl at the door, the MacLear and Lord Bryn's folk continue to mistrust each other. The MacLear are the main clan of the area we'll be playing in, the 3 valleys, as we've come to call them, because it's 3 main vales under the leadership of the MacLear. But the MacLear were the Caelicians, right? So Lord Bryn is the Alaran who's been set to rule over the 3 vales. Now that the MacLear is waning, it's waning in power. There is still a village chieftain of the MacLear, but the real authority is Lord Bryn. So the folk continue to mistrust each other, but neither can survive alone. I will use my skills to keep the threats from the wild at bay, from both Alaran and Caelician. So he wants to, again, straddle those 2 worlds. His own belief about himself, his self-belief, is, I am the son of a Blade Knight, and the blood of the MacLear flows through my veins. I will do my duty to clan and liege lord to the best of my ability and become as strong and skilled as I need to be. Whatever they say, I am no cur on a leash. I am a man by the one, Morrigan and Macha. So again, he has this syncretic belief, right, where he's blending the belief in the one god of the Alarans with the many gods, the Celtic gods of the Caelicians. I had each player do an other belief, right, a belief about one of the other player characters, so to promote group cohesion and to sort of cement the party together, if you will. So his other belief concerns Lochlan Morda, which is another of the characters, who goes by the name of the Blackbird of Kells, right? So Cormac's other belief is the blackbird is rarely silent, but in his words one can hear the wisdom and strength, the weakness and folly of my mother's kin. I will strive to learn from these stories and help to keep him alive should he need me. Which is important because Lochlan is a bard. Cormac's complications are half-breed. Again, he is a creature of both worlds, so mistrusted to a degree by both cultures. And his other complication is lustful. So we go on to Lochlan Morda, the Blackbird of Kells. This is Neil's character, who's playing a bard. As Neil explained it to me, he sees the bards as the keepers of knowledge. It's an oral tradition. The Caelicians do not have written records, so everything is recorded by means of songs and poems and, old birth records, who's lived and died, judicial decisions taken by the people in charge. Those things are recorded by the bards who travel the land and spreading this knowledge and accumulating new knowledge to store. So Lochlan Morda is the Blackbird of Kells. Kells is a nearby village to our Starden area, which I'll show you presently. And as part of his backstory, Lochlan won a riddle contest in Kells, and this is why he's called the Blackbird of Kells. So his world belief is once before the earth and sky turned against those who stood where we stand now. Is it this Sogol Dair, or simply another season of the Coran Rin? There is a couple of legends taken from Shadows of Estrin. One of the Sogol Dair is like the last day, like a day of judgment, right, where the world ends, and it gives rise to a devastated afterworld. Or is it simply another season of the Coran Rin? The Coran Rin is the world tree, is the personification that the Caelicians give to nature. The answers must be found under the hills and the histories of Craig. Craig is the name of the peninsula where our adventures take place. So, this belief is basically he's interested in the stories and the lore of the world, and he wants to learn as much as he can. His own self-belief is the sun wanes and long shadows now silence our once joyous doorways. Now is not the time for unkindness or violence among men. So he seeks peace as well, right, to unite the peoples. His other belief is directed at our third player character, played by Todd, called Arthmael, the Bone Speaker. Arthmael is a druid, and the name that Shadows of Estrin gives the druids is that of Demorthen. So Lochlan's other belief is, I was raised to believe that the Demorthen carry the collective wisdom of our people. I will follow Arthmael's instructions. And his complication is gambling. The way Neil visualizes this is not only gambling as he likes, to wager money, place it on bets, right? But he also he looks for challenges, and he won't resist being called to a challenge. So Arthmael Bone Speaker is our Demorthen, or druid. The way Todd, who's playing Arthmael, envisions this druidic religion, it's a combination of nature worship with like Japanese Shinto type thing, where spirits of nature, spirits of ancestors, all manners of spirits are venerated and worshipped. It's not traditional, complete, just reskinning of Celtic mythos, right? It's slightly different, and Todd is, of course, in charge of developing that mythology as we go. But that's his sense, and he is Bone Speaker because as a spellcaster, he chose his power to be a version of Speak with Dead, where he can ask yes or no questions from dead people as long as he has access to a fragment of bone from that cadaver, basically. And so he also wears an armor made of bones, because he envisions this Demorthin collecting pieces of bones from people and just creating an armor out of that. So the other thing we decided is that the Demorthin, the druid, has the authority to emit judgment upon the people, right? So he's sort of like the ultimate religious and judicial authority. So the way we envisioned it, these Demorthins travel the lands, going to places and performing big ceremonies like weddings and burials or blessings, or blessing the crops, and also hearing disputes and settling conflicts and laying down judgments. So that's what they do. They wander the territory. They have like a jurisdiction, right? So they walk through it and dispense their justice, right? Which works out great, because as a setup for the campaign, what I envisioned then is Arthmael the Demorthin is newly appointed to this valley this Three Valley region. So he's got to wander this area and take care of his duties as a Demorthin, but he's accompanied by the Blackbird, right? The Bard, who is listening to these judgments and recording them, because he's the lore keeper, and also, spreading knowledge through the people through his songs and accumulating new knowledge. So this gives them a reason to wander throughout the map which we created, which is, it's a good setup for what we want to do, to explore. It's sort of an open world type of deal within the 3 veils of the map, right? That's all I have ready, really. But that's a good setup. And then Cormac the Knight. Cormac is a knight, but he's also has received some training as a Varigal, which is the equivalent of like a ranger or a courier or like a postal worker in this world. And it's taken again from Shadows of Esteren. The Varigals, they wander the land, they guide people from place to place, they carry parcels and packages from one area to the next. So he's like a guide. So I figure, okay, so we got the Demorthin wants to travel to dispense justice and do his blessings and carry out all his duties. The Bard wants to travel with him to record the knowledge and to spread more knowledge and to find out, all he can about his land and make that into songs. And the Knight is their guide throughout this land. So that's our basic setup for the game. So Arthmael's beliefs, his world belief, is there is a great spirit of decay affecting our world. Okay, this is something we discussed in our session 0. They wanted to do this thing where there is things are decaying rapidly, like things don't last anymore. There's this underlying theme of degradation, of things dying and decaying, and they want to find out why everything is in decline. So that's another theme that goes into our world building. And so Arthmael incorporated it into his belief. There's a great spirit of decay affecting our world. It is my duty to find out what it is, and what that spirit of decay is trying to excise or get rid of, so that he can help get rid of whatever needs to be gotten rid of to prevent the spirit of decay from destroying the world, basically. His self-belief is the people of the region depend on me. I must serve them even when they misunderstand or wander. And his other belief relates to Cormac the Knight. Cormac Godfreydson embodies our hope for the future. I must ensure he embeds our beliefs within the emerging culture. So his complications is guilt. He blames himself for everything, even when it's not his fault. Every death or injury of those around you weighs on your conscience. And his other complication is superstitious. You believe in the old stories. Your exact notions are born from the culture you were formed in, but regardless of their specifics, you believe in supernatural forces, prophecy, and luck. So that's the basic setup of beliefs. We have our plot device, I guess you could call it, of this wandering trio who will walk the lands, right? And so we go to our map. And so the way I set it up, we were to start at the Melwan Vale, which is right here, as the central part of the valley, right? There's the Melwan Valley. There is the Loch Varn region next to it. I'm going to mark it here. And the Derg Valley to the north. So those three are the main vales. This is why we call it the Three Vale region. And so, as I said, the Demorthen is coming in for the first time to this region. Now, we had established previously that Lochlan came from Kincardine, a nearby southern village, and Cormac the Knight comes from the Melwan village itself. So what I did is I handed out some NPCs and, very vague descriptions of the inhabitants of the Melwan Vale to see if, if they wanted to write any beliefs pertaining to this region, or if they wanted to write out any relationships with these people of the Melwan Vale. So it wound up being that Jose, Cormac's player, took to the region. He liked the setting, so he made his character be originally from this part of the world. Lochlan is also from the area, but he's not quite as tightly wound into the setting, and Arthmael didn't really write any bonds to the people in the village. So that's what gave me the idea for saying, okay, so he's a newcomer to the area, but Lochlan, having traveled throughout the Three Vales, knows the people. So he's a social guy, right? So he knows the people, he can talk to the people, while Cormac is the Varigal, the knight and the Varigal, right? So he has wandered this region, so he has the geographical knowledge. He knows where the places are. He can guide you there. So it looks like all three of them make a good team. So the way we started is we started the session saying they're coming in from the village of Kells. Oops, let me see if I can shift it here. There you go. From the village of Kells at the edge of the map. And they basically coming in through the road into the Melwan Vale and Castle Maclear. Right? And they're being guided by Cormac. So this first session was mainly establishing, hearing new rumors and getting a feel for the land and the setup at the start. So when they come in, before I start, since they already had access to a list of NPCs, both Lochlan and Arthmael picked up on a hermit. There's a hermit in Melwan village named Ergor, and he is a crazy hermit spouting nonsense, basically. And both of them have heard this rumor. Now, they believe, since they are superstitious, that the ravings of a madman often conceal the words of the gods, right? So they believe he may have been having visions. And so part of their interest in coming here to Melwan village is to talk to this hermit and see what truth lies in his ravings. So as the people come into the village, they go straight to the inn, where they will, procure lodging for the night, and they find a celebration going on. There is a local bard, a young woman named Ainless, coming from the Derg Valley region. She is a would-be bard. As we've established in the fiction, or Neil properly established in the fiction, is that the way these bards are made, they go wandering from town to town and recite the poems and the songs, and they earn tokens from each village, like little pieces of wood or little pieces of bronze or copper or whatever from each village clan chief, the Ansalir, which is a term borrowed from Estrin. So each Ansalir in each village would give you one of these chips, one of these tokens, and you gather all of them, and then you return to the village of Kells, where if you pass the test, they make you a full-fledged bard. So they come in, there is this would-be bard, Ainless, coming from Derg, and throughout the night, Lachlan engages with her immediately, starts singing along. She's playing a lyre, and he starts singing along with her. At some point, Ainless challenges the bard to a contest, and she declaims a song which she wrote herself, which is the song of the last of the McGovrians, Mael and Aileen, who come from the Derg Valley up north, from the village of Fairhill. Right? She tells the tale of this two young lovers, him, Mael, the last of the McGovrian clan, who used to rule the northern Derg Vale until the Alaran outsiders came in and took over. This young man fell in love with a local woman, and they planned to escape and elope, and so they met at the nearby mill, a lumber mill. They met nearby to prepare their escape from the village, but then the mill caught on fire, and the young man tragically died. So the poor girl returned to the village of Fairhill, and that was the end of the last of the McGovrians. So she sings the song, and Lachlan changes the mood by bringing in a funny folk song and trying to rouse the people to join him in the chorus. And so we did a little a performance contest, which Lachlan, Ainless rolled well, but Lachlan managed to win this contest. And so, he gives her advice and tips on how to continue her career as a fledgling bard. At some point, Ainless also brings news that in the village of Fairhill to the north, there is a wedding being planned by Girig, the son of the smith Fank, who is the greatest smith in the Three Valleys region. He is renowned throughout this area for being the best skilled smith. So his son, who is an important man, is set to wed the daughter of the local Ansalir. Her name is Lakina, and so they have need of the Demorthen to preside over the wedding. So this information is given to Arthmael for him to do as he wishes. So, they make note of that. As that is going on, the rest of the party is sitting down and having dinner and drinking, and they meet Ildian. Ildian is a Varigol, a red-headed woman who used to be a childhood friend of Cormac's. They both trained under the same Varigol, taught both of them the rules and the skills of the Varigol, of the courier, of the messenger. So, she reminisces with Cormac regarding Rajan, who was their old Varigol master who trained them. She hasn't seen him in years. And indeed, Cormac confirms that this man Rajan has not been seen in the village for years. So Ildian tells Cormac that she has come from Ard Monach, which is a land far off to the east. So she has come from the eastern edge of the map and traveled south through Loch Varn, right? And then come all the way here to Melwan, but she is bound westwards now to go back past Kells and headed towards the capital city of Tald Naom to deliver a package sent all the way back from Ardmonach. So she is on her way. She met this young bard trainee, Ainless, here in the region where the road to the Three Vales. Let me just clear this a little bit. This crossroads here in the mountains where the roads for the Three Vales meet, that's where she met Ainless, and she met a caravan of merchants. And so she traveled ahead with Ainless, and so they are here, right? But she passed those merchants. They were coming from Derg, right? They were coming headed for Melwyn through the pass. And, they should be on their way. So, they have this talk. Arthmael is listening to everything that she is saying. Ildian the Varigal also tells them that when she passed through Loch Varn, she was told by the local Ansailir, the local clan chief in Loch Varn named Daorn, that the crops and the harvest seem to be failing this year. And by the way, we started our game near the Harvest Festival of Samhain. But the Morthen of Loch Varn is concerned because the harvest is failing. So the Ansailir asked Ildian that if she ran into any Demorthens, to tell them that the crops are failing and ask for their help. So that is something that Arthmael should look into. Arthmael makes a note of that, failing crops. It's his duty to bless the crops, so that's important to him as well. I'm relating it like this, but as we played it through the night, there would be flashing back and forth between Lachlan and Ainless and Cormac, Arthmael, and Ildian talking. So that's I'm just trying to put it separately so you can get a cohesive picture of what's going on. At some point, two travelers enter the inn. Also, you get a missionary from the Temple of the One God, who goes by the name of Vector Yaber. Vector is the title that Shadows of Esteren gives to the missionaries of the One God. So this Vector is escorted by a Blade Knight, which is a man in plate armor. It's sort of like a Templar Knight who is charged with protecting the Vectors and protecting the churches and protecting all of that. The One God is just a Christian analog, right? So it's the Christian thing with a serial numbers filed off. So the Adept Blade Knight is a knight in training by the name of Irvin. And they are journeying to St. Nylene's Chapel. Let's look at the map right here. So we are in Melwyn right now. And the missionary is journeying to St. Nylene's Chapel near Loch Varn. So he is looking for a guide to take him. Ildian, of course, is headed in the opposite direction. So, he asks Cormac to see if he can guide them. And Cormac says, he has to check in with his liege lord, but that if he is not busy, he will guide them. So then the two outsiders, they have a brief tense moment with the Demorthen, as they are members of, competing religions. But nothing much comes of it. There's a little challenge to the religion of each. Each challenges the other's beliefs, but, it keeps relatively calm. And so eventually Vector Yaber and the Blade Knight Irvin retire back to Castle MacLear to enjoy the hospitality of Lord Bryn and the local chaplain of the One God. So, those are the things going on in the background. And when morning comes, they all set out to find the hermit, Ergor, having asked the innkeeper. And Ergor lives on a hut in the outskirts of town by the fields. And they find him in this cavern, and they see that the whole cavern, hut, that the hut is covered with all these protective runes, right? They're not really protective runes, but they're his attempt at carving such things. The Demorthen recognizes that some are just bent things. He's just imitating things that he's seen before, and he's crazy, right? But he believes that these are protective runes, and he set them, carved in wood and bones, hanging in the trees outside of his hut, and on the door of his hut and the windows, he's carved all these protective things. The madman doesn't want to come out. They try to coax him out. He says no. He says, at some point when he realizes that Arthmael is at Demorthen, he says, he allows them to come in. He just opens the door, but says, hurry, hurry. The crows are watching. And so they learn throughout the many ravings of the madman that he seems to be afraid of the crows. He says that they will all soon be food for crows, and that he has seen the crows coming this winter, and they will eat everything, and they will die because of the crows. And he speaks of this strange presence, this figure he calls the Prince of Crows. And he says that the Prince of Crows will come and destroy them. So, Lochlan the Bard makes a knowledge check. He has never heard of any Prince of Crows in the folklore. So he decides that he wants to talk more with this hermit and learn more about this Prince of Crows, because maybe he can make a good song out of it to sing for the Samhain festival coming up. And the Demorthen Arthmael takes pity upon this insane man and decides to calm him down. He will carve the real runes of protection up on his cabin, so that he will, be at peace and feel protected. Now, it's worth noting that the druid has no actual magical powers other than the ability to talk to the dead, but he has knowledge of the runes. There's just not real power behind whatever he does to carving these runes. They have no power. It's just superstition. So that was the end of session 1. Again, it was high on information, because what I was trying to accomplish as a GM is throwing in as many hooks as I could and seeing what would be of interest. I know the beliefs, so I tried to throw in some folklore. I tried to throw in some possible areas of interest for the Demorthen to investigate. There's a wedding up north. The crops are failing to the east. There's the madman here. For our would-be bard, I had a challenge of singing, poems and stuff. And also this new lore of this Prince of Crows. And just seeing how he would react to this challenge from Ainless, the would-be bard. And for Cormac, the idea, again, is to have him, the offer to escort this priest of the one God religion, right? The idea that there is a merchant caravan up north that hasn't arrived yet, so maybe he wants to look into that. What else? So that's basically the little setup I had. It's mostly to provide them with hooks and also to allow them to breathe in the setting. You could see the players becoming their characters as the night wore on, and they had the opportunity to role play as these people. There was a clear sense of, I know who these guys are now. You could see them understanding their own characters better. So it's a slow start, but again, this is a half session by most people's standards. So I will come back and give you a recap of our second session, where things develop a little bit. Again, most of these games, usually they're slow starts, right? Until we build up critical mass, right? Enough knowledge of the world and enough things going on in the background where the action suddenly starts snowballing. So we're still building up to that critical mass. So anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this, and I will try and keep making these as soon as possible. We've played 3 sessions so far, and we have an upcoming game in 2 days. So that's it for now, guys. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.